Hello, and welcome back to Many Adventures Mini. This week I'm jumping back into my Warmachine Infernals with a command attachment for my cultists. It is Master Preceptor Orin Midwinter. And I'm not all that familiar with the particular lore for Orin Midwinter. I just thought that he looked really cool as kind of a character model to paint. I do know that he's part of the Signarin faction backstory and has fallen in with the Infernals against the rest of mankind in the Warmachine lore. But that's about the most I know about it. But he looks pretty cool, and it was a fun paint job to do. And I think I might use him in the future for like a D&D baddie, like a bad mage, wizard, necromancer, something along those lines. He seems to fit the bill pretty well for any of those kinds of roles. But let's go ahead and jump in and I'll show you how I painted him. Alright, and here are the starting images for our Master Preceptor Orin Midwinter. As you can see, I have already done the basing and priming steps for this miniature. This is one that took a little bit longer than some of my normal D&D miniatures, so I got this out of the way ahead of time. But starting off after that step, I use my Black Citadel contrast paint. I've been loving using this stuff for things like black cloth. It seems to just work fantastically for that. So I'm using it again here just to get the majority of the robes done quick and easy without having to do too much layering and extra shading effects or whatnot. This gets a large chunk of the model done quickly and without very much hassle, so it's one of the reasons I've been in love with it so much lately. But after that dries, I go ahead and take my dark stone color and just get the base coat of the ground covering out of the way right off the bat. Just giving everything a thorough coat and letting it dry so that I can work on some other stuff. And afterwards, I come in with mummy robes. This is the kind of off-white color that I decided to use as the base for this guy's hair. So I'm just using it to cover all of his beard and the back of the hair coming off the back of his head there. As you can see, he's kind of bald on top, so yeah, that's going to also be fun to paint later on, but we just use this white as the base color for his hair and keep working on it like that. It's not too simple. This is the very early steps of just blocking everything in. So it's nothing too complicated. I'm just trying to make sure I don't get anything on the black where I don't want it, because it's kind of difficult to fix at this point. And next I come in with this tanned flesh, and I tried moving the camera in a little bit closer here. I think this was a little bit of a mistake. I think I brought it in too close. I was just trying to make it easier to see, but with the way I speed up these videos, I don't think that really helps. It just flips around too much. So I'm still working on using this new camera, so I'll probably pull the perspective back a little bit for my next video. So please just bear with me for this one. But like I said, I'm just using this tanned flesh. It's my darkest skin tone, and I'm just using it as a base coat for all of the skin going in here. And then I use more of the Mummy Robe's white on the staff, since to me that looks like the staff is kind of wrapped in bandages. So I decided to go with this, and I'll be staining it later with my burnt umber color that I like so much. Here just touching up a little area that I missed earlier, and I decided to try black on the head of the staff just to see how it looks. I think I don't like this very much, and I end up changing it later. But next I come and bring this pure red. It's the brightest base red color I have, so that's what I start with, and I use it to start doing the edge lining with this guy, going along with the filling in the little glowy bits there, and then I start lining these little banners and borders going along his robes. In the only original artwork I could find for this guy showed the base of his robes as red, and then these bands were black, but I decided to invert it because I thought that would look better for me. And I do like the way that it ended up looking. I think it would have looked just fine the other way around, but I decided to go with it this way. And partially that was because I only have black contrast paint. I don't have like a good red. And maybe I would have done that differently if I had the red contrast paint to do the robes easily, but this is what I ended up deciding to go with, and I am not disappointed with how it looks at all. And this is probably the same color scheme I'll keep going with for the cultists that I do, because it's just really, really simple with the contrast paint to make it look really good. Because just doing a base of black and then accenting with red and a few other colors works really well in this kind of application, especially where I'm trying to get a bunch of guys done to a pretty good standard without having to spend a ton of time on it. This helps out tremendously and makes it look pretty good in the process. I don't completely rely on the contrast paint. I'm mostly just using it to get in this bulk blocking out pretty quickly, and then I still do the rest of it kind of a traditional style, but overall this has been working really well for me. But as you can see, I'm still just lining everything. This guy has a lot of accent borders on his robe, so it takes me a while to get it over, especially since my red paint is a little thin. It's actually been coming out of the bottle really thin, so I think I might actually need to replace it soon. I like to have more control over the consistency of my paint, and sometimes I like it really thin like this, but sometimes I need it to be a little bit thicker, and I'm not quite getting that anymore. And I've been having a similar problem with my matte black paint, so I might have to do that too. I'm actually starting to run low on a handful of paint, so I think I need to make a run to the store for those soon. But here I'm going in with my uniform gray, just using my usual dry brushing technique here, just to add up onto the base here just a little bit. And then I use just a bit of black wash to fill in any cracks that I might have missed in all the sand. Then I come in with some skeleton bone here, and I'm just getting these like teeth or talons or whatnot that are hanging off of this bottom border of his robe. It's just a simple blocking in process at the moment, but that's the color I use for those. I think it has a pretty nice look and effect there, but it's nothing too special. And then I use my leather brown to get these, like, I thought of them like leather thongs holding them onto the robe, so that's why I went with like a brown color. And then I believe I also just keep adding on more to the borders, just darkening that color, or I guess just making it more opaque so that it doesn't show through and look a little dirty sometimes. And again, I apologize for the camera stuff. I definitely need to pull it back next time, because this close perspective doesn't lend itself as well to this as I was hoping it would. There I'm also coloring in the bag with the leather brown color, and I'll come back to that again later. And then working on the guy's shoulder pads up here. With the red on these shoulder pads, it really kind of starts bringing everything together even more. Just looks even more just imposing. But you can kind of see the problems I've been having with like the super thin paint and having to go over it several times here a little bit if it holds still for a second. I know this is a little bit difficult to watch, and I'm sorry about that. But a lot of this step is just continually going over and touching everything up where it seems a little too thin, and getting everything the way I need it to be as best as I can. And I'm doing my best to try not to cut out as much as possible, which is why you see me like go back and fix stuff a lot. And here you can also see I'm using my burnt umber wash to just stain the staff darker color with the almost like it's wrapped in old bandages, which I like the look of. So I also use more gray and then some skeleton bone dry brush just to wrap up the base there, so that it will be done at this point. And then I come in with this plate metal and I start getting a couple of the metallic areas around this guy's body, like the little nubs on his shoulder blades that I thought looked like they were kind of like metal buttons or whatnot on there. I get some metal along the edges of the staff here where you've got the bits that kind of look like blades. I get it on the bottom of the staff too, because I figure it makes sense for the staff to have kind of like an iron base or something like that. Or at least it makes sense to me anyway. so I went with that. And this staff has like some glowing red accents on the eyes and whatnot, and I'm not sure exactly what I was trying to do here with like the skeleton bone color. I thought it made sense at the time. I go back and cover it up later because I just had too much trouble with it and it didn't look the way I wanted it to. But I used the matte black here to come in and block out the area for the eyes. And this isn't too difficult, and I like to do this before I start any of the shading for the skin tone, so that if I need to correct anything, I don't have any issues. But once that's blocked out, I come in with the mummy white as the white of the eye color. And on the artwork that I found for this guy, he didn't seem to have any pupils in the artwork. It was just whites, and then that was pretty much it. It just seemed like pale white eyes, so that's how I left it. And then I used the same method I used on my Lamenter a couple weeks ago to make a bit of this pale gray wash to put on his hair. And when that dries, it looks pretty good in my opinion. And then I also fill in his hair ornaments and whatnot. And then I bring in these 3 colors of green just to try and do something new with this potion bottle he's got on his hip. I wanted to try something I hadn't done before, so I start with the dark green and then use the lighter green and then an even lighter green, just doing like shades of highlights, trying to get kind of like a glass vibe. That's why I also come in here with this white, trying to get kind of like reflections on the bottle to make it look like it's glass. And I think it came out okay. I can do better again a different time, but I'm fairly satisfied with how it came out this time. Also just getting the jewels on his hair ornaments there. I'm pseudo dry brushing a little bit more white onto the staff just to bring the color up a little bit from where it was before. And also putting some highlights on his belt pouch there. Touching up the paint on the potion bottle a little bit more, just trying to do what I can to make it look good. And like I said, I'm somewhat satisfied with it, but not completely. And here you can see I changed my mind on how I wanted to do the top of the staff, and I just painted it all with a silver. And I also changed my mind on the hair ornaments, and I came in and made them black so that they stood out more on his hair. And I also just got the glowing red bits in on the staff and his hair ornaments here, just doing my best to keep everything as clean as I can. Then I take him off the base for a minute to try and sketch out the halfway mark on his base. As I've said before in the Warmachine rules, this is just useful information to have for the rule set, so that's why I tend to do this. It's not required, but it is helpful. So it's just an extra little step I do where I mark the front half of the base as red and the back half of the base as black, just because I like black. And people have way different methods of doing this that all fall into their preference. But after just a few more pieces of touch-up, adding kind of like an eye slit there, I move on to my Vallejo matte varnish and give him a very thorough coating all over before we finally wrap up. And I think this guy came out looking pretty good. It's a reasonably good tabletop standard that I think looks very nice, and it didn't take me too long or require too much effort. And now I'm looking forward to trying painting more Infernals models in the weeks to come. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed painting this one and putting this together. I've been enjoying painting the Infernals, and we'll probably keep doing that for the next little bit anyway. I want to get them all painted up so that I can have a fully painted army for going to the game store and playing with people, and I'm even considering looking into the idea of maybe filming some battle reports to put up on the channel if anybody's interested in that. But, as usual, if you have any comments, please go ahead and leave them down below. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. It helps out a lot. And if you want to see more of my videos, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever any of my videos go up. And with that, I will hope to see everybody here again next week.